And a three, two, one. What's going on, everybody? It's your doggy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome to another episode of Growing on You Live. And today we are going to be having on Didier Konings. I am absolutely psyched to be able to talk his work in film, concept design, and so many other fun things that just kind of mold, some of these guests and brings us to where we're at today. So let me get. Have some fun, lots of fun. I'm very excited. He's got a new movie coming up that's been hitting fests. We're going to be talking about that and more. And once we get Didier attached, this Witte Wieven, we have Seized, we have Uncario talking.
Hi,
Didier, how we doing, sir?
very good. How are you?
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for the time today, man. Oh, man. I tell you, your work, man, you have an absolute knack and an eye for some very special things going on in film.
So much. That's a very kind introduction of you. And yeah, I feel like I need a cool sunglasses like you.
you know, it started off as something goofy and it just kind of stuck. It kind of comes off as a little bit of a douche thing with having sunglasses inside, but you know what? Here we are,
I love it.
200 some
It's
interviews
great.
later.
Yes. Yeah.
so, I mean, as far as, we're going to be talking today, concept design, we're going to be talking, you directing shorts and having a feature length that is coming out and is popping in fests and just absolutely having, some high praise, which is definitely it's worth all the praise that it's getting, man. So once again, thank you and congrats on everything going on with Witte Wieven.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. And you're also pronouncing it perfect. So I know it's a hard title.
Thank God. I
Yeah.
wrote it down, and I wrote it down kind of as like a dummy version, just making sure. But I was listening to different interviews, and
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, I hope I'm not
No, you
botching this. So
got it. You got it.
that's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Upon earlier interest in film, where do you discover, your an interest in sci-fi and horror? With the shorts that we're going to be talking today, with some of the sci-fi work that you've done in world building, and with the feature that you have in folk horror. Where do these interests, kind of start when you're younger?
Yeah, I mean, uh, it's definitely on a young age I've been exposed to movies that I was not supposed to see, you know. So it's a thing that I've heard more, and I also relate to a lot of my friends in the arts and in film that they've all had a similar kind of introduction to like horror or sci-fi and what made people laugh so much about that, you know.
Mhm.
Actually, I don't know how how that is for you, like representing horror and being a fan of that aspect.
Mhm.
How your introduction was to horror films. For me, it was yeah, I would say watching Jurassic Park and Alien like on a very young age.
Oh.
And I was a dinosaur fan as a kid, and like the film starts like it's great, it's a theme park, it's positive, but then when it goes wrong, and especially that the Dilophosaurus attack, and I did not understand it too. Like I was not able to read subtitles or understand English. I was that young, so
Yeah.
but some of that horror, what happened also was fascinating to me. And then I remember watching Jaws, because I mean it's a film your parents talk a lot about, and
Mhm.
it's a classic, and you learn about Spielberg, and that's his film. And so I watched that way too early, but I think it was Jaws too at a certain point that just a lag slowly comes down with a blood trail, and then it just bumps into the bottom of the ocean, and they did it perfectly that you can see that the knee is also like hinged, and
Yeah.
it was so real. Like all the hair on the leg, I was like, oh my God. So, but I was fascinated by that too, that that could happen, and you see it, and you're
Mhm.
introduced to that kind of imagery. I remember I was drawing that at school. Call me a creepy kid, but I, I was just I did a drawing with with a shark, and then the highlight of the drawing was that leg that was bit off. So I remember a teacher taking that drawing away and was concerned, So
Oh
yeah,
my
I think
gosh.
that
Oh man, it's funny you mentioned, the
yeah,
two movies that were honestly the exact thing for me was, coming up. I think the first horror, movie was Jaws, and absolutely traumatized me to this day. I'm in Michigan, so I'm surrounded by fresh water, but
yeah,
even then,
yeah,
I get to a point where I'm not touching, the lake bottom. I'm
yeah.
going back.
Yes, yeah, there
Not
that
happening.
fear is for every single water. And I know like there were people at the time the movie came out that were afraid to take a bath.
Oh,
You know? It
oh
was
yeah.
that impactful. Just
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I love it. I love it. And then, I think the first, like, I may have seen, different Disney movies or something that my parents brought me to, but I remember probably 6 or 7 when Jurassic Park came out. And that was my earliest memory, at least, of seeing a movie in theater and just being like, holy shit, what did I get myself into? And I think my
yeah.
parents thinking the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I was curious about that, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's
That's,
how it goes.
and I mean, just the adventure of both of those movies. I think that's something, that was very captivating, and where families were like, well, it's not quite a horror movie, but you see the velociraptor attack, and you see,
Yeah.
many of the things in Jaws. And it's always interesting with Jaws too, as we grow to see, behind the scenes and all of the sacrifice that was actually made within that movie, to
Oh
where,
yeah.
the product that we got, and, not seeing the shark a whole lot, it developed a whole style of film.
Yes, and definitely horror was yeah, it was just so impactful of how the audience's imagination can just be
Mm-hmm.
triggered by not seeing something. And also
Mm-hmm.
it's beneficial from an economical point of view.
Sure.
But it's
Sure.
more than anything, just storytelling wise, it's something that just works super well.
Mm-hmm.
And it still works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was even going to mention even a little bit, in Seized, where, we're not quite getting an image of what it is, but there's a shape outside of the door or the window, and I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, the imagination, we're thinking, we're trying to, we're not quite seeing, and I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it.
Cool.
Yeah, no, and as far as within these interests and different things, when you're coming up and you're a kid, where is there a tangible item, something that you think of that you're like, man, I wish I still had this action figure or card or some sort of collectible?
Um, yeah, it's like funny you're asking for something I don't have anymore because I I tried my whole life to just keep a hold on to
Oh,
all of those
oh,
things.
dude,
And
even better.
I actually still have everything. So
Oh man, really?
it
Wow.
yeah, I mean I can bring you here to the madness real
Yeah,
quick.
sure,
It's like
sure.
I got like a hell of like action figures and Lord of the
Oh
Rings and
man.
Jurassic Park. It's all fell down by the way because there was an earthquake here.
Oh
I still
God,
haven't
really?
organized it all. But yeah,
Okay.
I like all that
Well,
old school
oh.
stuff and surround myself with the things that inspired me for just when I'm working here, I like to be surrounded with the things that yeah, made me do what I'm doing, you know.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, and I'm a nerd, you know. I love collectibles and things like that. So it never stopped. I'm still collecting things. But yeah, things I didn't have like I think at the time there was this poster I had from the second Jurassic Park film,
Mm.
which had like all of the dinosaur species on it, like in one big poster. And it
Oh
was all
man.
drawings from Crash McCreary. So I was
Oh
a
wow.
huge fan of that drawing, but I mean I was still a young kid, so
Yeah.
I wasn't able to realize the names behind the drawings and all the history. But later in my career, I did a panel for Playgrounds, which is a festival in the Netherlands.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yep.
They're also in Berlin. I think now they're expanding even more. But Crash also did a panel there, and I actually met him, had a really nice conversation with him. But yeah, it was just always when I woke up from my bed, I saw saw those beautiful drawings, and I actually have a bunch of them here. It's not the
Okay.
poster I used to own, but it's
Wow.
still those drawings that were in this collection.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's uh yeah, he's an amazing artist. Yeah.
Did you bring up that poster that you had when you were coming up to him when you met him?
Yeah, well, I said to him that his work has definitely always been around in my space.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, yeah,
mm,
he's such a nice gentleman, and he has worked on the most iconic films ever,
mm.
been responsible for so many more designs than Jurassic Park. So it's really
Oh, okay.
nice to just speak to him, and uh, yeah, he's a very approachable guy. So
Man,
yeah,
beautiful.
that's
That's
really
all. That's always
nice.
a great
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
You'd mentioned an earthquake, and not specifics or anything. Are you in the States right now?
yeah, yeah. I'm in LA.
Oh, okay. Damn.
Yeah.
Whoa. Well, you got to watch those things. You know, every once in a while, you move to Hollywood, and then you get fires and earthquakes, and you're like, damn it,
Yeah.
why did I move out of civilization in a sense?
It's wild. I mean, the earthquake was a minor shock, but we were watching the Oscars at Friends, so I was not even at home. But then we saw on the map that the center of the earthquake here was where I live. So
Hmm.
uh, there was nothing damaged other than all my action figures that have just fallen down. So
Oh, oh, man, have to set them back
yeah.
up at one point or another.
It's gonna take me 5 days, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a year will close in, and then maybe a new one will come. I don't know. Maybe I have to glue them. Yeah,
Oh God! Now, I mean, mention as far as growing up in the Netherlands, your relationship with cinemas, local cinemas and video rentals was that a big thing for you then? I mean, you mentioned seeing, Jurassic Park and all
yeah,
that. Was that like a
oh
family
yeah,
affair?
yeah. No, I mean, I watched the movie for the first time when I was in South Africa visiting my grandpa who lived there. So
Wow.
for me, that experience watching that film was very immersive because the next day, as a kid, as a dinosaur fan, you're like going to that park there, and I was looking for dinosaurs there, you know. So, but just an imagination from a kid's point of view, I remember everything felt real. I remember I thought I was watching a documentary. So,
Totally. Hmm.
um, but yeah, your question, it's like later on, I was like, what was that film? It was this film. Oh, let's rent it, you know? So I rented that film so many times from the VHS store that they just gave it to me. And I still have that
Oh,
copy. I still have that copy.
awesome.
I was like, oh, there's that kid again. Well, all right, here, kid, just keep that tape. It's
Whoa,
fine. And I was
that's
so
so
happy
sick.
with it. I was so ha I was walking everywhere with that thing. No matter, yeah, it was just yeah, very precious piece of item. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, but your
Now,
question, right, of
mhm.
how the relationship is there with cinemas and rental. Yeah, I came there a lot, often over
Man,
the at the VHS store just
man, oh
to
man,
just to
love that.
rent, and it was just a great mood. Just watching films, and then it was a different relationship with watching movies because you were renting, for example, a couple films, but then you had 2 weeks or a week to just watch them. So what ended up happening is just watching those films back over and over again,
Hmm.
because now you still had them, and oh, let's watch it again because tomorrow we'll have to return it.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
different than now with everything being on demand, and yeah, I sometimes miss that form of just being able to sit down with a piece of work
Yeah,
and
totally.
watch it a couple of times. And yeah, but yeah, that's and then local cinemas, yeah, it's just yeah, there's one cinema in the Netherlands that felt a little bit like a classic cinema with they have in the US with this theater, like where you see like the lettering
Mm.
at the and this little front desk.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Rotterdam where I grew up, and that cinema always breathed like film. It was just these red carpets everywhere, these classic movie posters. It was this
Man.
little cafe to like drink some coffee, and every single film there had intermissions, and people were just
Oh,
drinking a coffee and talking about film, and it just felt different there to watch movies. And later they were less commercial and had also more of the underground films,
mm.
and I really loved still going there. That cinema was called Cinerama, and it's yeah,
Oh.
it's a really cool piece of architecture and an iconic thing in that city. And recently they were trying to get rid of it because of changes of city planning. So a lot of people, including me, were like trying to stop that with like signing, I don't know, petitions or
Petitions.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because it's just it's where yeah I saw Star Wars Episode One there for the first time, and my grandma took me there, and I mean that was just such a special memory of and I remember watching the second Jurassic Park film there, and they had all these glass displays, and they spent some time to decorate the cinema too for whatever movie was playing there. So I
Oh
remember
man.
they had like these fake eggs with like ferns and plants like all decorated on those displays. And I mean when
Wow.
you're a kid, once again, it's more of
Huge.
an immersive experience.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, it was just really cool. Yeah,
Man, and you know, and I love your story with that. You know, and it's even people that are here in the States or somebody that's local to me. I love hearing that. You know, that story that people have as far as you know these local places and different experiences or memories that they have because you can have you know just the most bland of you know like cinema that's local to you, but you know the stories and the memories that we have with these things are so special, and you kind of
yeah,
having those things with the Jurassic Parks and you know it just being you know very classic and kind of a you know a chic cinema and still running today. Like is it still going?
yeah. I mean, it's still around for sure, and they recently
Beautiful.
did the a festival, and they include that theater there too. So
Dang,
yeah, no, it's good
it's
that that's
awesome.
still. But hopefully, it stays long enough for other people to build memories there or
Uh
to
huh.
have those experiences.
Uh huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I guess, you know, touching on Jurassic Park and, you know, when we're a little bit younger and then kind of developing, noticing that there's more to film than just, you know, the actors that are involved or maybe, you know, maybe some of the effects that we're picking up on or, you know, being a director that's, you know, shined in the light. At what point do you, you know, kind of find yourself noticing other aspects of film and noticing like, huh, maybe this would be kind of cool, you know, to look into and then, you know, like kind of you know, digging right on in yourself.
Ah, you mean like thinking about making films after watching it, or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, I think for me it was just realizing that it's a profession, that it's a piece of craft
Mm-hmm.
that people can learn and that it's an art. It's a way to express, it's a way to entertain. It's um, just but by watching making offs, I think for me was how I started to learn, oh wait, this is interesting. Like people, yeah, people do these kind of jobs and build these set pieces with clay or miniatures. What is miniatures? Oh wow, that's this. Oh, that's how they did that. And it's the kind of movie magic behind it
Mm-hmm.
all that
Sure.
really made me excited about making film,
Mm-hmm.
just to make that kind of magic, uh, that kind of illusion happening, and make people forget they watch a movie, basically,
Yeah.
if it's well crafted. Um,
I guess
yeah,
even I guess even to elaborate, you know, on the previous question too, as far as you know, concept design and concept artistry was something maybe even right around like Stranger Things, to where I started digging back and you know and noticing like, oh wow, there's you know development and who is actually overseeing how these things are going to look and how they're going to breathe and interact with actors? How do you, discover, concept art as far as a form within film?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's for me, um, like I said, having these sketches that were done like to design the
Oh, okay.
dinosaurs,
Mm-hmm.
having them be around and then seeing that someone actually is sketching that, and it's like, oh wait, that was part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, what is that process look like? And then um, yeah, just seeing concept art books, things like that, and
Mm-hmm.
just the people behind that and how they did that. Yeah, and then I discovered Ralph McQuarrie,
Okay.
like for all the Star Wars drawings and things like that. And it was
Mm-hmm.
always in all those making offs, they were always referring to how important that was for George Lucas to express his vision towards the studio and convince him to make Star Wars, which was a film at the time that not a lot of people believed in.
Mm-hmm.
But with the backup of drawings from Ralph McQuarrie and other artists, but mainly Ralph, I think, for that film was just, yeah, that's how the movie's gonna look like, and just the satisfaction to see that those drawings were actually so um determined of the outcome of the film that people all the way at the end of that process were still looking at those drawings to just see if they can capture that mood
Mm-hmm.
and the feel of it. Um,
Sure.
yeah, I think that's the to me like the power of concept art, and of course it's a massive team effort, which later on you work together with people and with other artists, and sometimes multiple artists contribute over an artwork, or there's multiple ways to go. But it all serves the story. That's the job, and to try to bring it to a visual look and or a design.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's also a lot of problem solving. For me personally, I love solving puzzles. I've always loved doing that as a kid, and just to think about theme, to think about like a design language, and while drawing, you just start to discover things. So I really like that about the process, that there's this world that of rules and certain things that do not fit in the world that you can determine, and certain things that do really fit. So yeah, that's what I also like about it.
Mm.
What
Wow.
it's all about.
It,
Yeah,
and and I love your breakdown of that too, as far as the visual aspect of selling something, because it maybe even thinks of, or maybe, kind of reminds me of even in school and thinking of certain aspects of things that don't quite make sense, and you're kind of listening. And it's like, okay, I'm retaining the information, but then you get a
yeah,
visual and you get, like the presentation that's on the board, and it's like, oh, fuck, okay, like
yeah,
this is what it's going to be. And, that importance of, something like that, or something, like working on a project and them saying, you need how much money and what this
yeah,
is going to cost us,
yeah,
what, but oh shit, look at, what it is that they have and that they've developed, and what, type of immersion that the fans are going to have there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
truly,
And
truly.
it
Yeah.
sparks conversations that are important, especially when it comes to economical choices or limitations with whatever you can do with time limits or whatever that may be. But like a concept art for me is also a blueprint to just look with a
Sure.
lot of people at.
Hmm.
Either it's a cinematographer or it's the people that are going to execute visual effects or production design. You can just like roughly circle around like this is what we're going to build practical. This could
Mm-hmm.
be done with matte painting or stuff like that. Oh, okay, then we only need to build this and create that. So, oh, okay, now it's doable, huh? But then we cannot move the camera. Okay, that's fine. But maybe we'll just embrace that as a style, and like all kinds of communication or just yeah, all kinds of conversations. I mean, will spark from something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, it's like there's a lot of people involved with film, so it's always good to bring this sort of focal point to conversations in the form of a visual.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, myself being a lifelong film fan, I love the opportunity of being able to have these conversations. And I've had costume designers and, any sort of aspects, cinematographers, all sorts of different things as far as working on movies that I love and that I've, been able to cherish for owning a Blu-ray of, or whatnot, and like wondering how did they get these garb or how did they build these props, and it's amazing. I mean, it's absolutely insane, and I'm sure for somebody working in it, it's also probably stressful and
Yeah,
hair
yeah,
pulling experience.
yes, yeah. It's not just a romantic and that's it. There's
Yeah,
of course the side of working really hard. Sometimes you can figure out something, and that's just also part of the process. And
sure.
uh, yeah, that it's just also work,
It
and
makes it a
hard
job.
work.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now, I've watched different tutorials that you've done. Some we can say are hours long. You've had others that are just a couple of minutes of like a breakdown, and it's incredible. I mean, just the amount of fine specifics that are going into something that is just is maybe initially just a concept or just an idea or just a visualization of something. And I guess I wonder, as far as prior to computers and different programs, did you do a lot of sketching? Did you do a lot of like freehand drawing and different things like that prior to that?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I was definitely when I was young. Like one of my hobbies was drawing. I was never really good at it, but yeah, I think at a certain point, just visual effects for me became like such a um, fun, explorative thing, and it became my hobby, I would say,
Mm,
like working with 3D software and other things. And then at a certain point, I saw people using 3D and using drawing and using photoshopping elements all together to just make an artwork. It's like, ah, yeah. So it was all the things together that I liked that brought me to that thing. But I've always enjoyed drawing just on paper, just simple. I still do that from time to time when I'm like Zen or I'm trying to figure out something. But yeah, now the tools are also quite fast, and it's uh, it's also part of the process. But it's good to just go back to fundamentals too and uh,
hmm.
understand those things.
Sure, sure.
So
Eh,
it also helps while using those tools.
yeah.
So yeah, it's always a never-ending curve of learning, and yeah,
Mm, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I
yeah,
it's I think something that and that kind of that question spawns from some of like the older heads, where technology comes in, or maybe even a bigger like cloud over everything is change. They're like, oh well, we've always drawn things, and this has always been freehand. This computer shit, it's like I've even seen buddies over the years, that were very anti computer or software for like drawing tattoos, to where like
yeah,
nowadays that's all they do. They have a pad or they have, some sort of computer program that it's like, this is it.
yeah, yeah.
I was a little drawn away for a while, but I mean, as far as you attending the Netherlands Film Academy and taking on first major roles, major projects, what does that look like as far as branching off from school and getting these first spots?
Yeah, I mean, I was quite lucky to be in a class of my year of people at the Film Academy. They were all quite very motivated
Mm,
to go beyond the comfort zone, to dream big, do big things. So when we were at school, like you had different specializations, production design, directing. For example, I was in visual effects for 4 years.
mm,
So we built up quite a great family, a tribe of people that were all equally like inspired by films, nerds. We were all like trying to learn from each other a lot, and yeah, when we were had to do our graduation project. We just all did really awesome internships. So we learned a lot of stuff.
Mm.
So we felt like, let's go all out and make an epic film. So we did that, and I'm still very proud of that project. And
Wow.
it has really sparked a lot for everyone that was involved in that project. So, um, but your question, the differences, right? Like, I feel it's quite similar as how I experienced the academy and like being surrounded with people. And then after I graduated, I landed in a similar space where I was just working at a film studio with equal like nerds and people that were all like passionate about art. And it was just really great to be surrounded by artists and to just keep learning from each other and keep helping each other out. And it's that kind of a community. And every film that comes in, every film project brings in new problems to solve.
Hmm.
So you're all in the same boat that way, and you form a good team. So that's
Beautiful.
been my experience with both the academy and working in film in
Sure.
the studio.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. I mean, it's awesome, and it's also something I think to, mention as far as it takes a personality to, to endeavor in something like that and be surrounded by people that are doing absolutely amazing things and not just be like, you know what, fuck, these guys are too good. Like sometimes, I mean, I'm a drummer and I see some cats that are playing. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? So it's certainly something where, you have these absolutely amazing creatives, and you use that as inspiration as opposed to something that is kind of deterring or frustrating, and making that much better of a project. Is the project that you're mentioning, as far as the graduate or the final project, is that something that's on YouTube or available to,
Oh
to
yeah,
see?
it's on YouTube. It's called the Space Between Us, and it's
Oh,
this short sci-fi
oh, okay,
film. And it's like 15 minutes long, and
okay, sick.
yeah, and it was the year 2015 because
Okay,
in 2017 a feature film came out also with the same title. It's not that
not
film.
that one.
No, we
Okay,
did a short film, so that's what we did.
okay,
Yeah, you can see
okay.
it. It's on YouTube.
Sick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check it out after this. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Yeah.
And mentioning as far as still within class and doing some of these different projects and having things come up, and freedom in choosing different things and working with visual effects. Did you ever have any opportunities of like, hey, I'm gonna try and make a dinosaur here walk, or like anything like that, as far as some of the earlier interests?
You mean like during school or before that
Yeah,
or like
yeah. Like during school, like you would have a project and they say, "Hey, you can do whatever it is you
oh,
want," and you're like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
"Hmm,
Huh. Good question. Yeah, I mean, I at a certain point we had to do an assignment for school that was it was called the master exercise. It's really dumb to translate it here
oh, okay,
as I hear myself saying it, but it was just meant to pick a specialization and just do like 2 months or 3 months of research, and then you have to go through a lot of phases with it. So research, why you make it, what it all meant, and then making mood boards. And so it was this bigger project that was just you doing it. And at the time, I wanted to take the opportunity to learn more about all of the aspects of visual
uh,
effects. So I think Prometheus came out, the first film, and I saw those shots
uh,
with that spaceship just landing, and
sure,
I felt the design of that was awesome. So I thought, well, what if I just focus myself for 3 months on just one shot of a ship that I can design, that I can think about how it would work, how the mission, the engines would start up to like going through that whole process. And then I made like an airport where ships were like taken off.
okay,
So that airport needed humans to walk around. So that meant I had to figure out a crowd system And then I wanted to do holograms because it was a futuristic airport. So how's that gonna look like? So
Damn.
as I speak, you could hear me, right? It's like it became this big project, but
You're like, oh shit, what I
yeah,
do?
but it was like inspired by Prometheus and other like films I've seen where these
Okay,
ships take off. And the first thing I did was I just made an edit of all those kind of films from Star Wars to Oblivion, like gathering that together and just trying to feel out what is the feeling of it? How does the camera move? How
mm,
is the lighting they picked? And just trying to just analyze that, but also make it my own. And then uh, the ultimate goal of the exercise was to just have like a flagship portfolio piece then just knock at doors to get an internship, hopefully. So yeah,
cool,
that's
man.
that got me that contributed for sure to got me into an internship here in LA.
Okay,
Because it
wow.
was worth cranking those 3 months and just no sleep and just figuring it out. Yeah.
And I can imagine, kind of an eye-opening thing for like, oh man, this shot in Prometheus is so awesome. I'm going to try and pull something off, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this was an undertaking for just this
Yeah,
moment.
I know. Yeah. It's yeah, they have a whole team, and the whole idea of this exercise was to just do everything yourself for that shot. So, um but yeah,
Jeez.
now today with new tools that are there, it's a completely different game. Like if I sometimes I look back, I'm like, man, that took forever. Also because the tools were just
Sure.
different. Now
Yeah.
there's just so much more in real time and uh yeah, it's just yeah. But yeah, we
Beautiful thing.
have to grow and
Yeah.
it's fun to look back at older work like that to be like,
Yeah.
hey, man, yeah.
Make you appreciate some of these things that are coming out nowadays.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, funny enough, earlier I brought up Stranger Things, and you worked on this. You worked on, the Upside Down, and can you tell us a little bit about, that process and the opportunity, how that come out?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I got the email to just work on that project, it was this new Netflix thing, and it was just Netflix was not a big thing, or I
Mm-hmm.
was just, it was not as it was now. And I remember seeing other shows on Netflix that kind of felt like under the radar. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the studio that took on this job, they did the Demogorgon and uh, a bunch of the designs and things like that, and I came on later on to help out. And then with the upside down thing, we looked a lot at the Beksinski paintings, which was like this artist from I think he's from Poland or uh, but it's bizarre kind of surreal paintings where it feels very nightmarish with bones growing on the walls and things
Mm.
like that. And yeah, that was a big inspiration, and just ultimately using meat or pieces of chicken on a tree to give it that glossy, wet feeling. Not for real, but I mean, just in the process of uh, creating that look on those trees and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then it popped off. It was a great success of a project, and that was really, really cool to see
Huge.
something big as that. But at the time, that was, like I said, it was just Netflix was a different kind of, yeah, I took everything a bit with a grain of salt, and maybe that was just me, but
Sure. Sure.
it's just hard to, yeah, there was a different time with these streaming services.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And like I mentioned, it was just one of those things while watching, special features on like a Blu-ray that I had of like season one, and I'm kind of digging into like the design that went into it, and it just was something for whatever reason that clicked, at that moment. And then I'm doing research for this interview, and I'm like, this this dude worked on this shit.
yeah.
Like, geez, Louise, holy man, that's awesome. So yeah, it's so sick, and I mean, like you kind of look like you're in the Upside Down right now with the
Oh
red
yeah,
light
the
there.
lighting. Yeah. No, it's
It's beautiful. I love the ambiance, sir. It's
yeah.
great.
No, thank you. It's I love colored lighting. Maybe it came from there. but it's yeah, it's just I love mood, you know.
Sure. Yeah, that's
So
what I'm
yeah,
saying. That's what I'm saying. Now,
yeah,
another project here before we get into some of your directorial work is the matte paintings in The Conjuring 2. And, these were so sick. The movie was awesome. I absolutely love that. What can you tell us a little bit about working on that?
yeah. I mean, at the time I was still working from the Netherlands, and I just graduated, and I was waiting for my visa. Um, so it was just I was doing a lot for that studio to just be as present as possible. So I lived
Mm.
during the night, and I yeah had like my day started like around 5
Oh
p.m.
my God.
and then I worked until because I just wanted to be present with the team and emails and immediately respond. So I choose to just flip my day and literally become a vampire and work at night. So that was sort of my setup. Um, yeah, and then it was just a lot of work. I got involved in that project in the post-production. So they already shot a bunch of things, and I remember actually working on uh, a bunch of like vision shots from the Warrens, and they go into this nether world, and then
Mhm.
they see like the demon named Valak. I don't know if I'm still like saying it correctly, all the details. So correct me if I'm wrong. You might
Okay.
know
No,
more
no, you're good.
about the specific names of these characters.
Hmm.
But later on, I think the James Wan decided to make it into a nun,
Mm.
and then the nun was actually a thing that was added in post. And um, yeah, the kind of painting work I did for that nun was they shot an actor, but the mouth was supposed to look like it was ripped. It was ripped open.
Mm.
So we did that with like a digital extension and to make the mouth be more scary looking. So that was a thing we added. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, oh man.
And it worked. And I had nightmares of that nun after, especially like doing long shifts on making it all, creating it all.
Yeah.
And then I did some more lighter work, which is like I call it invisible visual effects, which you are not supposed to see.
Hmm.
So it was a lot of things where they shot the train that they go back to London or
Mm.
something
Yep.
didn't work out. So they're on this train and uh, yeah, they shot it in a sound stage with a green screen. So we had to
Oh, okay.
make a whole train station in the background digitally. So that was one of the map paintings there. And then um, other invisible visual effects were um, just some continuity things with a door that was open in another shot. So we had to close that down and then
Okay.
paint the characters out frame by frame that were just in front of it. That was a lot of fun. And then and then a lot of the security cameras and things like that
Oh yeah. Okay.
that were
I remember
not
seeing that.
that was not supposed to be there in the period because I think that film is 80s or 70s, I think.
Mm.
So I think it was the 70s still.
Hmm.
So yeah, that had to be removed, and then some skylights in some on some roofs. That was not a thing too at the time. So
Hmm.
they were very specific about those things, and so I helped out on those kind of effects. Yeah.
Now, even something like you mentioning the lights or the cameras, and this is just me being completely detached of knowing how that stuff works. Is that like I mean, is that a difficult process as far as lighting behind it, or shadows that it may cast, or with it being light, how it's changing, the light of the shot. I mean, how does that all work as far as the bigger scope of editing?
Yeah, you mean the uh, the continuity or the
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just thinking about like, you have a shot where you had filmed it and there's video cameras in there and it's like, well, okay, I have this tool that I can, delete out, but as far as the cut, like, how are you deleting that out? And then there is just the wall or the window that's right behind it and it looks perfectly fine.
huh. Yeah, I mean it's trying to match whatever you have as a reference. So the colors, everything that's in the frame, um, and then just polish it up. And then if people are walking in front of it, you have to cut people out and make sure that the effect that you're applying on top actually feels like it's behind people. And
Fuck.
it's a lot of in the details, like the blurriness of how something is sometimes not in focus, so you have to match those things, or every film has noise, so there's also a match in that. All the edges of things might have chromatic aberration, which is another like effect that happens in the lens of a camera, and lens distortion. So there's a lot of like details that all add up. That the moment you insert something in a film, you have to like take all of that in consideration. So there's in an ideal scenario when you go and before you shoot a film, you would know that you have to make an effect somewhere. You'll just register all that data and collect it all so that you in post know, oh wait, it's this lens they used, and you can dial in a lot of things. It becomes more scientifically, so that it just all becomes that it all matches, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay.
um, but sometimes you discover, oh God, we forgot this thing. Oh shit, now we have to deal with that in post-production. So then it's a lot of eyeballing. Yeah, then you just have to have a good eye that you develop. That's another way to say it, I guess.
Wow,
Yeah,
man. Yeah, and I don't want to be redundant with asking, some of those things, but it's just even the smaller details in film is always something that like really, pops a light bulb in my head. And I was watching, one of the kind of breakdown videos that you have where you were talking about working on The Conjuring 2 and it was focusing on like taking out the cameras and such. And I was like, holy shit, like I don't know if maybe I just thought like it was a thing where they took them down or they whatever they would do on a production or shoot it low enough where it's not there. But I'm like, damn, this is straight up like replacing things and uh, you know
yeah,
uh, 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 editing over like coloring and matching and all that. It's like, holy shit, it's crazy.
yeah. It every film has those kind of cosmetic things that it's just such a you have to just, yeah, shooting a film is just such a fast-paced operation that with so many people and so many things. So sometimes, yes, things get overlooked, or some people say, hey, that's something we can take care in post. It's cheaper to do it there. Let's just leave those cameras on. We cannot remove that. Okay, we'll take care of it there. And so those
Interesting.
things
Hmm.
are also considered from that
Mm-hmm.
point of view, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. But yeah, that's yeah, with the tools we have now these days, a lot can be done. Um, but preferably you spend your visual effects money on things that actually contribute to the story, and it's not something you're just trying
Have to take
to
out or edit or
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what indie filmmaking where I like to just use those kind of platforms of my own films where I've learned lessons from the industry like that, and I'm always very carefully planning out shots and things so I
Mm,
don't have to spend my energy and time on like fixing a lot of those kind of things, and I can use that time to fix it more on whatever is needed for the story, like a spaceship
mm.
or a certain thing that needs to happen, you
Sure.
know. Like,
Sure. I I just haven't had the opportunity as far maybe in like a few years here as far as talking to somebody with VFX or different things like that. So it's just fun to pick your brain a little bit and kind of hear
yeah,
some of
no,
these things
please,
because
it's
I any
yeah,
detail of film, man, it's always very enamoring and enlightening. So I appreciate
Cool. Yeah.
that couple of minutes there to
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
detach. Now, as far as directorial, we have Seized. I want to start with this, and uh, apparently a use of the COVID lockdown. What can you tell us about this short, dude? This thing is sick.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for watching that, first of all. It actually was mainly an exercise of just trying to make a film feel nostalgic, and
Mm.
we've drawn a lot of inspiration from Spielberg films or films from that era from the 80s. Um, so yeah, it just felt like let's use our time that way. And at the time, we were all locked down in one house, and we were all friends and filmmakers. So we were like, yeah, why don't we just make a film here in the house? And my whole bedroom got transformed into this more 80s looking. I was just going through the house of like, oh yeah, well this could be fitting there. That I feel that might be the vibe, or
Okay.
oh, maybe this not. So it's always a very process like that. But the idea came from that I was sleeping one night and I heard like helicopters go over and they had these searchlights go through my garden. And I also thought I heard some people walking around, or maybe that was just half in my dream because I was sleeping. But the whole feeling of just that someone is hiding in your garden or is being searched, and that brought me on the idea when I saw 10th Cloverfield Lane, where they are like, oh,
Oh
there's
yeah.
helicopters, yeah, or there's it sets a debate
Uh-huh.
with the characters of like, are there helicopters, or is he right, or is he not? So
Uh-huh.
I thought like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like just trying to capture the feeling that I felt while I was trying to sleep, and I heard those sounds from the garden, and then then I thought like, well, what if it's actually it feels like someone is trying to break in, but it's actually something that's not human. So that was sort of the start off point from that project. Yeah.
Oh man, dude, it's so sick. And I love, it being a short, and I love it being something, that just a couple of friends are kind of pulling together. But there's some aspects to this, man, that I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? And one of the things as far as even acquiring or building, what can you tell us about this vessel she has on her
Yeah,
desk at one
that
point or
was
another?
I had a because it's lockdown, and now I want to 3D print things as I got more into that. But this was
Okay.
actually done with I, I had like a party plate that was like kind of transparent looking, those kind of cheap plates, disposable
Hmm.
stuff. So I broke that in a lot of pieces and I started to like glue it back together in a sort of form. And then I had these sport mats in the garden where I was doing some workouts on, and it's this specific kind of foam that can also be used for cosplay or costumes. It's called EVA foam. So I
Oh,
was just
okay.
cutting like shapes out of that. You can literally cut through it with a X-Acto knife like butter. So I was just trying to make those sort of interesting looking shapes. And then I glued that on it, and that sort of became this object. And then
Oh,
I
wow.
left the bottom also open so that like a light under it would actually feel like it would lit up the whole party plate aspect you see through these foam parts. So that was like a
Damn.
really household kind of
It's
project
awesome.
that
Pr-
made it into that thing. And then after that, I 3D modeled it in the computer, and I took some photos from it and scanned it in, and then I could animate when it comes alive, then it's a digital uh, version of the prop. So I could
mm.
then animate and do things with it. And I wanted it to feel like sort of this shell that opens up, and then the core of the shell could take you under a spell. And it ultimately is the sort of device that helps carrying people out of a room. I don't know, like when you're in a lockdown, you get crazy ideas, I guess. So
But I mean, that's the fun with
Yeah,
sci-fi. That's the
yeah,
fun with any sort of thing like that, and this world building and ideas, and even with Star Wars, and when that came out, it's just like somebody has this small idea and it builds out to all these other crazier things, and it's cool to just have originality behind that.
yeah.
For all the things that we've had over the years. How do you pull off her floating?
Huh. Well, that was pretty fun because my buddy had a stand-up desk that was this desk that was this, yeah, with a remote control. It was really heavy, and it
Hmm.
was standing in our garage. So we had like two chairs on it, and my girlfriend would place the character who gets abducted. She just had to lay on that, and I was like, well, if you shoot it in that way, I can remove the things, but we still have that elevated feel. So it's actually
Shit.
her laying on a stand-up desk that we slowly moved up, and
Okay.
that was in one of the shots, and then in bars, and then we had the leg shot going up. So it was one
Oh,
technique
okay.
mixed with the other one, and then in the other shot it was a dolly track that from the camera that she was just laying on, so just literally hovered outside of the house.
Man, oh man.
It was
See, I mean, from building, you like you say, and building the vessel, and different things like this. It's what I love about short films. It's what I love about indie films is having that practical mindset, and not being a thing where it's some huge studio and millions of dollars going toward things of like, how are we going to pull this off? The movie magic that somebody's mentioning here. Like
yeah.
I love that, and one thing that comes to mind here, was your girlfriend psyched on this, or was she like, Didier, why do I have to do
In the
this again?
beginning it was, but then later it was late, and then I think she almost, yes, there was a take of her that she almost passed out because of the light that she had to look into, and she was also in panic, like laying
Oh,
as if she was in panic. So she was breathing a lot, and then watching in the light just made her
ugh.
lightheaded. So yeah, that happened.
Oy.
Yeah, she's fine. Like we're looking back at it, and we're very proud of what we did with the time we had and the
Sure,
tools. Uh,
sure.
but we both also did the soundtrack together.
Oh,
Uh,
wow, okay.
so
Sick.
I play music as a bit of an amateur, but uh, she's more of a professional musician, so she has her own albums and other things like that. So
Wow.
uh, yeah, we both wanted to collab on that, and I played some just guitar things, and she did a lot of the synth work. Um, so yeah, that was a lot of fun. Just having
Man.
fun, I
Yeah.
was just bringing back to the old school way of how I started making film with friends, and just no pressure of a studio or anything like that. And also at the time, there was like literally no work. The world stood still. It was almost
Yeah.
as if you're a kid again with no responsibility. So yeah, that was a really fun time. Yeah.
Man, I love it, and a cool use of that time too.
Well,
Like,
yeah, let me rephrase. It was not a fun time, but
well,
we tried to make the best
you
out
tried
of
to make
it. Yeah.
the best of it,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
that was kind of one of those things where, as scary as
Yeah.
things were and as wild
Yeah.
as things were, it was also inspirational to have something like this. It's like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
What's tomorrow gonna bring?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
getting little things like that, it's always fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of the smaller details, we have the newspaper at the end, which I'm going to kind
Ah,
of get
yeah.
to in a couple of minutes here, but the Woodbury Times, and that prop. What can you tell us about that, and naming
Yeah.
the paper there?
Yeah. It was just it came from the writer who worked on it, Evelyn,
Uh huh.
and we all lived in a place called the Woodbury. So it was
Okay.
that street, so we just named it after that
Okay.
because we had to
Okay.
come up with a name. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds cool.
Sure.
So that's that's funny you remember that detail. That's yeah,
Sometimes there's just small little things that you see, maybe like somebody's license plate number, or
yeah,
something that just kind
yeah,
of looks like it's like, I wonder, and having these conversations, I love, kind of digging into some of that stuff and having a little
Yeah,
fun with
yeah,
it too. And
yeah,
speaking of that paper, one of my favorite things was a moment of foreshadowing where earlier in the movie or earlier in the short here we have, her saying, "You're going to see my name in the paper, front
yeah,
page," and this is what we get later on. Not
yeah,
the way that she wanted, but it was
yeah.
there. Any is there anything as far as foreshadowing that comes to mind to you in books that you've read or movies that you were just really I don't know, just really stuck with you?
Yeah, not from the top of my mind
Okay,
right away.
okay.
But I love in the films to explore just the theme of be careful what you wish for and how is that gonna
Okay. Hmm.
happen. And in this case, it was her reacting in that way on the phone, and then later it means that, so
Uh-huh.
there's a double meaning to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, good question though. It's just I don't
I
have.
I thought
Yeah,
it was funny. I
yeah,
just thought it was one of those things where all of a sudden, like by the end, we're like, well, she got what she asked for.
yeah, yeah.
Dear Lord. As far as I don't want to say necessarily creature, but we have like a presence that's outside of the door later in the short, and you being able to create that, and us having these fond memories of aliens and different things like that. What comes into designing your own creature, and did you have a lot of pressure with that as far as how you wanted to go about this thing looking?
Um, yeah. I mean, like it's also the limitations you have to deal with.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you can create a creature that's just from such a with wild anatomy and things like that. But yeah, it's at a certain point you have to think about, oh, we cannot do a CG option because that's just then we have to go through a really big long process of
Hmm.
dealing with that. But what if we have someone who's performing it? Okay, then it has to be humanoid, or we do something to it that it feels still different. So yeah, then sort of like if the sky is blue, it's not always a good thing. It's also good to find what are your limitations with that project and just work within that. Um, Sort of bringing back to the thing of be careful what you wish for. When you design something, you have to just also execute it. And if it comes to CGI, it has to breathe, it has to feel like it's real. So yeah, on that aspect, it's just a long process that,
Uh-huh.
yeah, do you want to spend that much time on that,
Yeah.
It's or is there enough money to make that happen? Or can we not just not see the creature, just see a part of it? So
Hmm.
uh, yeah, there's a lot of those balancing things when it comes to a creature in a film.
Sure. And it's always one of the fun aspects of somebody being able to have the fond memories that we have of monsters or creatures or aliens, and then you get into, a form that all of a sudden you're like, hey, I get to design my own thing. And I thought it was very cool that, it was very subtle. It was very, one of those things where the imagination takes off. And it's like, what the fuck is that, dude? Like, I'm not comfortable with it at all. It's,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
it's good. Effective. I love it.
yeah. Good.
Next up, I wanted to talk about what I may preface as something that should have been involved in Black Mirror. I feel like you're familiar with that series,
Yeah, absolutely.
Uncario, brother. Am
Oh
I
yeah,
pronouncing that right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
fuck that up.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
you didn't fuck it up.
Okay. Man, we talk about world building and different things from within, a ship onto landing, onto having different vessels, and just uh, a heartbreaking story, truthfully. To be honest, watching the full thing, as the director's cut of it as well, I'm like, holy shit, man! Like this thing's incredible. What can you tell us about the idea and how this project started?
yeah, I go all the way back to I think 2015 when the film The Revenant came out.
Oh,
And
okay.
I mean, it has nothing to do with that necessarily, but I was just so inspired by the cinematography, by the kind of storytelling of like how they had a character without saying that much. So it was very visually on the heavy side of that. So uh, out of inspiration, I because I have worked with Leon before on one of my childhood film productions, and we're still really good friends. And he was doing all kinds of things with acting, and I just wanted to do something with him. So me and Leon and my dad drove to the forest in Belgium, and we were just trying to experiment and trying to just film. And I didn't just had a story. I was just trying to just capture a mood and just trying to work with him with the exercise of we're not doing a lot with dialogue. And then we did a photo shoot, and then I started to have some ideas of people that have to put themselves in a coffin to survive. So that brought me to the idea of like, oh, what if we have to live in a coffin, because we have fucked up our planet and we don't basically deserve to stay there anymore. So would we be then? So I thought about the moon and how we are sort of locked to this idea of being stuck in a prison, and then all we can see is what used to be our home.
Mm.
So that sort of feeling that you would have in an actual prison of just being forced to just look through that one window. And I just wanted to make this film to bring awareness to a certain extent of how precious our planet is, and if we don't treat it the right way, then yeah, if then it's a very isolated life, if you would survive. But ultimately, I don't believe that we really need the planet. And then I
Mm.
saw this
Right.
sentence on a piece of a quote somewhere where it says, "Planet Earth doesn't need us, but we need planet Earth." And
Uh-huh.
all of that I just described, I go in a lot of detail here, so you have to stop me at a certain point. But
Brother,
it's
I love it.
but all of that combination really was starting to spark for me, and then I started to just design, how would that prison look like, and then at one point I thought that the story could become a loop. So then everything in the design, that pot that he carries to the window, it's all like a circle shape. So I try to use that circle shape to also represent what happens ultimately in the film.
Uh-huh.
So speaking of foreshadowing, like yes, I think a lot of in these kind of terms to help telling the theme, help telling the story
Uh-huh.
visually. So um,
Interesting. Wow.
been doing all of that work and then the artworks and then the storyboards. Then I started to just make the film already with artworks and with storyboards. And then, yeah, people were excited when they saw that and came on board. And then we built it that sat in a garage of a friend of mine, and it was a lot of work, but also just yeah, using an old styrofoam package and paint that gray, and then just hanging it on there. And it's sort of
Okay.
these things that I would do digitally. It's called kit bashing, but that was something I
Huh.
was also doing physically. So
Wow.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. Um, and then the goal was to just make it as close as possible, like the artworks, and then ultimately I wanted to do everything as practical as possible, not working with blue screen. So we also shot parts of it in Iceland, which was a adventure by
Wow.
itself. It's
Sure.
really, really great times. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I mean, as far as him landing, where was that part shot?
Yeah, so I knew that in Iceland there was an actual plane that crashed there. I think it was in the 80s or maybe even earlier, and it's still there and it's running away. So with that in mind, I thought, okay, we're going to that location, and then we can use that actual crashed plane as his
Whoa.
plane. That
Shit.
so yeah, that was sort of trying to think with what do we have, what can we work with, and how can we come up with story elements that we can actually realize. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Interesting. Man,
so
oh
you
man,
can go to
that's
that plane. And a lot of people have.
I got
Oh, I think
you
our
back.
connection was
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry about
Oh,
that.
no
No,
worries.
you can go through that plane or you can go to that plane then. That's still
Yeah.
like a
Oh yeah.
on-site.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's also, I mean, kind of depressing. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Holy man.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as, like mentioning, with having something like this with the context of what is in this story, it's complimentary.
Yeah. It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So, and now as far as I'm just trying to think because there's so many things with this too. And originally shot as the director's cut, and having the full sense of the story and the full sense of because it is about 50 minutes in total.
Yeah, I think 20, 21. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry, I'm thinking something
No
different.
worries.
But then there was like a even shorter kind of compact version of that, which was what I initially had saw on
Oh
YouTube.
yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
something as far as for like fests, or how did
Yeah.
that come as far as making
Yeah,
that shorter
because a
cut?
lot of yeah, it came from that because just at the time that you learn along the way, and I was just passionate to tell the story with the kind of pace I wanted it to be.
Mm,
Because I just wanted to express the feeling of how slow it moves that we feel like we're stuck.
mm,
So part of that was the pacing there. So, but the festivals are like, yeah, they're just pretty harsh on when they make big, they have to make selections out of big lists of films. So to fill the program slots, it's just a tough sell to have a short film that's taking up that much of a slot
got
instead
it.
of
Okay.
four films that fit in that, you know?
Sure.
Um,
Sure. Okay.
so yeah, that was a tougher thing to just get it into festivals, but I mean we got into some, but it got better into it worked better out when it was a more cut down version. So that's where that came
Okay.
from. Yeah.
And still solid, still good. When I
Yeah,
got
we
to
did
that
our best. Yeah.
director's cut, though, for anybody watching, I mean, as far as me saying, watch the director's cut. That thing is immersive. You feel for this guy. It is a bummer. It is I mean, it like in the best way, as far as,
Yeah.
watching something like that and just being kind of immersed in thinking of this and thinking of where our planet is and different things like that, and like having some sort of option where Elon Musk is talking about going to Mars, and it's like, dude,
Hmm.
what the fuck are
Is
we
that a
talking
good
about, like
idea? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, what went into creating, visualizing, this idea with this transportation, portal pack. I don't want to dumb
Ah,
this
yeah.
down, but
Yeah.
the SD seven
Yeah.
hundred and that
I love that
sequence.
you know the name of it. Yeah, SD came from Simon, which is my best friend who helped out on designing it, and D from my own name. So, and then
Oh, okay.
700 was just, yeah, it sounds cool, and my favorite number is seven. So that there,
I
those
love
kind of
that.
choices. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted it to feel like, and it's maybe a bit of suspension of disbelief, but it's this pack that all he has is that piece of technology. But I also wanted to show that we're so relying on technology and that we haven't learned how to survive or how to make our own food. We have forgotten that. So having him be relying on that backpack and that's
Mm,
all he has. And ultimately it is in a way a smaller version of his room. So he was already feeling cramped in that room that he was stuck in the moon. But I wanted it to feel like what is the worst version of that
Mm.
if he's so now he was finally free on this planet with big vast landscape, but it's so
Huh.
dangerous out there that he has to lock himself back up into a coffin ship, which symbolically is
Uh-huh.
just symbolizing death here. But it also was trying to reflect on how his room looked like. So the round window is also part of that design. It's the sort of purple emergency light that was also in the room
Uh-huh.
that I wanted to bring back into that pot. So yeah, I
Yeah.
just like to just figure out in terms of design how that can all and draw connections to things like that. Um, hopefully to with the goal to provoke that feeling of just we're now worse than where we were before, and
Uh-huh.
it's also in a way be careful what you wish
Sure.
for, and
Yeah.
yeah, he's now stuck there at yeah, so that's and the execution of that thing was practically done by my friend Vincent, and he has a really good talent with 3D printing and like figuring out mechanical things and make it look like it feels like an actual thing that's sci-fi. And then I did some like pictogrammic drawings on it with like how to use it and like a sort of manual that was all like
Damn.
inspired by Alien and Blade Runner, that kind of
Oh,
vintage
totally.
design language
Hmm.
of older like tech. Yeah, that was the whole. Hopefully, I captured it for you there. The
Dude.
the backstory of that pot thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's awesome. And by no means don't feel like you're ranting or anything like that. I mean, I love hearing, and more so, I mean, within, doing research of these things, I like trying to look at smaller aspects or smaller details of things where it's not the same old, oh,
yep,
tell us about this and what went into the trailer and some of the basic things, those things come in interviews, but the smaller details of things and some of the personal passions to naming something or crafting, I love hearing that
yeah,
shit, man. It's so, so cool.
yeah,
And these things, I mean, as far as the worlds that you build and all of the detail, and it's mind-boggling. I feel like if I was in that position, I would get overwhelmed pretty quick on like, I'm just supposed to design this ship, and I still have a whole other
ah,
fucking planet that I'm supposed to put out here
yeah,
in the
yeah,
next week. Like, oh yeah, yeah, it's crazy. No, dude, bravo. That for anybody watching, Lucario is awesome on YouTube. I love that. That is such a cool thing, man. I love that short. And last up here, we have to talk about Witte Wieven. So so cool. I finally got to see that. It's in Fest right now. It's kind of making its rounds, and I love folklore. And for this being something where it's a story crafted of familiar lore to you, making your own take on this. What can you tell us about that?
yeah. Just growing up in the Netherlands, it was a thing that you know about, and there's many interpretations on the folklore. So yeah, but I was just familiar with the version that I grew up with, which it's known for its low-hanging fog in the farmlands, and sometimes that can be interpreted as these ghosts that have these, yeah, just that kind of presence that they're coming, and when they are arriving, and they come with this fog. So. And then
Mm,
my aunt had this book about folklore because she's into witchcraft, that kind of stuff. So
okay.
she always had like a broom at her door, and like that's always inspiring for me as a kid, just being around that realm and reading about the lore a bit.
Wow.
And then um, yeah, there's a theme park in the Netherlands. They address their version of it in one of their rides, so a lot of people are familiar
Oh,
with it.
oh wow. Okay.
But it was when I got the opportunity to make make a project or pitch something to the Netherlands Film Fund, or the the TV station basically that funded this thing. Um, it was my buddy Mark, who I also did the graduation film, The Space Between Us with,
Mm.
and he directed that film and wrote it. And yeah, he's such a talented guy who has just great ideas. So I was like, what ideas are you working on? Like, is there anything we can that would fit? Because this project had to be thrilling and it had to be in the genre space of horror or thriller. So yeah, he pitched that one to me, and I was like, with everything he pitched, I was like, that's the one. Because then I remembered my youth of learning about these things and growing up with the idea of these beings, and I was like, wow, this is great. Like, let's make that into like a folklore. Because at first it was still a modern story, but then we had some debates and we were carefully trying to option out the idea. What if it's medieval? Because the stories came from that era, so it would make it in a way more realistic.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
and I've tried to figure out, like, we have a small budget, so there's no way to do a medieval movie, but how could we do it, you know? And then as part of our pitch that we ultimately did, we also presented that into consideration of, like, this is a medieval film. We know it's expensive, but this is how we could do it. And there are those kind of villages that are open air museums in the Netherlands to learn old crafts, and there's a bunch of schools that go there every year to just have uh, make kids familiar with these more traditional ways of living from those eras. And uh, but yeah, we examined a bunch of those villages, and then we were able to shoot there. So I was like, okay, so we
Oh,
don't have to
wow. No
build a
kidding.
set from scratch. We can actually use one of those villages. And then I showed them this is what I can do with matte painting, and I showed the examples of Uncario. And then it started to click for them in combination with the concept of the Vive that people were also familiar with. So I think that all helped. And then doing some concept art to it too, and yeah, that whole combination sparked, I guess, for that greenlit our project. So that was sort of the start of that one.
And I mean, and I'm connecting too that this has to be something of, advantageous for you being able to have, that hand with concept art
Yeah,
in
yeah,
something that you're directing, where it's like, I have this idea and I have these tools and I have these things where I can pitch it right away. I don't have to sign off on somebody else. I don't have to, worry about this is what it is and here it is. We don't have to
yeah,
wait for something. So, I guess that's a beautiful tool to have on hand from prior and still today.
yeah. Oh, yeah, no, it's very helpful to collaborate with people. Like also with concept artists, like we had an incredible team on board of this film. But it's also helpful to just know the tool myself and make some quick mock-ups and things to just express, like, this is what we can do,
Mm.
and then storyboard the whole film. And we also did for this movie, I scanned in the village, so with my iPad. So I had a 3D rough scan of it, and then I modeled everything in Unreal Engine, just this video game engine you can now these days build whole worlds in, and it's all real time. So I was able to just go in there with the camera and just figure out the angles beforehand, and drawing on top of that to also,
Wow.
for me, it's another way of just directing before shooting it, to just make up my mind of the kind of visual storytelling or certain choices you can already figure out in the storytelling and the compositions. And then ultimately that was giving me a lot of confidence, just going in the set knowing that we had to shoot this whole film in 10 days. I needed that plan to be airtight, but it also left me with the confidence to just also be open to ideas and to workshop things out on the set, because I knew I had something to fall back on in terms of
Man,
that plan. So that was helpful. Yeah. Yeah, I like to
man, oh man,
figure out a lot of things in pre-production, and that always helps to just get all the noses in the right direction on set, and because everything that will go wrong. That's definitely a true thing, especially for medieval filming in nature, filming with animals, dealing with
kids,
like cold, yeah, kids. It's like there's a lot of factors you cannot really prepare for. So whatever I can prepare on and the team can is helpful, you know.
man.
Yeah,
And for even like you say, presenting this to producers or somebody for funding, having that kind of airtight preparation, and the all the you know T's crossed and I's dotted and everything like that. I'm sure always a selling point, and always something that makes somebody more comfortable with thinking of the idea, and wrapping their brain around the whole thing. So.
yeah, yeah,
Well done. And you mentioned some of the, or earlier we were talking on working with Leon, previously being in Cario, and his presence here, just being a menace right the moment that you see the rascal.
yeah.
What can you tell us about some of the casting and choices that we have here as far as who appears in Witte Wieven?
Yeah, so with Leon, there's a funny backstory there, how actually the project sparked. He was in a movie, a Western thriller, directed by Martin Koolhoven named Brimstone. It also stars
Okay.
Guy Pearce, Dakota Fanning,
Oh
Carissa
yeah.
Houten,
Okay.
Kit
Yeah.
Harington.
Okay.
Pretty big cast, but yeah, he worked at a bar. He was a bartender in the film, but he was on set, and he built a connection with the director Martin, and then he later on shared with Martin the Uncario film we did. So that came after that. So I guess Martin kept an eye out on who I was and what I was doing, and as he was thinking about people that wanted to do things or that would the potential to do things for genre film in the Netherlands, because this whole project was founded by him and the TV station to bring genre film to the surface, because it's just
Mm,
very much in our country and culture a thing that's living a bit in the shadows in terms of genre and what has been done. And yeah, there's genre film that is being made, but we really wanted to give it a boost by or he wanted to do that, to just pick six different directors, to just give them a stage to make something and let them be free. So that really made me excited about this project, that
that's
we were
awesome.
also able to just take that stage and express ourselves and explore and take risks. So yeah, thanks to Leon, Martin came in touch with me
Oh,
to think
wow.
about like candidates basically to for people to pitch. And
Okay.
uh, so yeah, I really wanted to. I felt like Leon would be great for that role, because he just perfectly fits in that role with his look, and um, yeah, he immersed in it. And but I was also like, I'm very loyal with how I work with people, and I feel like thanks to him we had that connection with Martin, and he was that bridge. So I wanted to just have him play that role, and I also saw him be that role. So
Man.
that was yeah,
And it's one of those things that, something simple as somebody's performance, the way that maybe they're reading dialogue, maybe dialect, and I'm not overly familiar as far as, local, dialect or anything like that, but uh, the performances in this are just spot on. I
yeah,
mean, you feel for the ones that you're supposed to feel for. You're angry at the ones that you're
yeah,
supposed to be angry at. There's a
yeah,
sense of dread in certain moments.
the performances. I mean, they're like I say, spot on.
Yeah, the cast was
Hats off.
amazing. Like everyone did an amazing job. Everyone was very excited about the project and was really committed by doing all of their homework. Like the whole cast learned this language that everyone was speaking at the time. So everyone in the film speaks like Saxon. So they're not
Oh,
speaking in
okay,
actual Dutch. They're speaking in a more medieval version of the language. So yeah,
okay.
everyone was very committed to make sure that that felt very natural. And yeah, not only that, just everyone's ideas from the cast and their physical commitment too to everything because it was very cold and they
Uh,
were not wearing like Game of Thrones, all those nice jackets with fur. No, we were like a poor village.
yeah.
So people were actually feeling that way for real. Like the breath you see coming out of them is literally the cold. It was very tough, but yeah, I mean, no one complained. Everyone felt very immersed into it. I was along for the ride, and that's how it felt. It felt like it was a adventure ride, um, yeah, where we all were having each other's backs and trying to get the most out of the project.
Man, and
Yeah.
ironically enough, that was my next question too. Is mentioning on the training or prep that went into the physicality. Because as you mentioned, I mean, even smaller details like the breath and the cold weather and such. But there's a physicality that comes into some of these performances and like preparing for that. But even the garb and everything like that, nothing was necessarily meant for the weather conditions.
Yeah. No,
That
it
sucks.
was, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But something where I mean you're world building, you're having something that's true to a time. What goes into that design? I mean, were there things that were having to be like brought together? Were there things that were kind of commissioned, and purchased? I mean, as far as costume
Oh yeah,
design was another awesome aspect to this.
yeah. Going off.
You're good.
I set an alarm for this call and I haven't turned it off. So every 15 minutes, the thing is still like, hey, the call is happening.
If I'm interrupting, I can let you go. I don't
No,
want
no,
to have
no.
you miss that.
It's really
Okay.
fun. It's really fun, and I
Okay.
enjoy
Awesome.
this. So,
Awesome.
yeah, your question about the props and things. It's yeah, like you cannot with a film like this with the budget design everything from scratch. So the whole location was just what it was, but how can we make it more for what the film needs to be?
Sure.
So it's a rope maker, he needs a lot of ropes, and there's all of those things. How do people sleep? What kind of beds did they have? It's just a medieval film just comes with all of that research. And yeah, big inspiration is of course the films from Robert Eggers, where they take that very
Oh yeah.
seriously, and we were trying to do a similar exercise where we're really trying to zoom in of how things were. So we worked with an expert, Arjan, and he just knew a lot about that era. So he was able to function as a consultant. We were doing a lot of research, and then Paula Loos, the production designer, really took it to the next level with her team, where she actually, yeah, just like figured out a lot of the props, like candles were being made by hand. There was
Whoa.
a lot of props we rented and carefully selected of like this would fit in the time, this would fit in the time at this prop house in the Netherlands. Um, yeah, that was really cool to just see that village become alive and become a real place. And then most of the extras in the film was family of mine, friends who just were eager to help out. So they all were dressed up in their outfits and making little fires and things, and it literally became an alive village.
Wow.
Um, and then my cousin also helped out with manufacturing all of the sort of more specific props of things. Um,
Okay.
he loves doing that. It's his hobby, and he always was doing that, so he was made for the job. So all of those skeletons and things were like 3D printed, and he painted that in his little shed in the garden, and
Oh
it was
man.
just lot of passion from a lot of people, and everyone was just so committed. So that was really awesome how that worked in the film in terms of the atmosphere, that everyone was just trying to give 100%. And those all you can wish for as a director of the film, it's just be surrounded with that energy. And then yeah, everyone just levels up with each other. And then the special effects props were done by Rolf, RFX prop making, and yeah, that was also next level. Like he uh, just we had Leon, we made molds of him, or he did, and then with clay and everything, and just we were trying to just capture what the thing captured so well of all this body horror, but yeah, the gore of it. Uh, for that kind of stuff, you have to knock at the door of Rolf, his studio. So he and I go
Oh
back to
yeah.
the film academy, and we were always dreaming about the project that would be good. So this was it. I was like, this is the one. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, and I had a couple other questions, that kind of dig into maybe even a little bit of later aspects. And as we're kind of talking, and as I was, thinking, even this is still in fests, this is still, going around, this is still spreading, so I don't necessarily want to, dig into those things just because I don't want it to be a spoiler. I want people to be able to, check this out and go and, dive into the madness that this really dives into,
Yeah.
because at first you're noticing that things aren't quite right and something's going on, and it goes into a realm that you're not ready for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And out of respect, I kind of want to keep some things spoiler free here, so we're
Of
not
course.
ruining
Yeah.
things.
I hope I
Um,
didn't spoil anything
no, no,
about
no,
myself.
no. It's amazing. It's amazing. The trailers out there. And this is still making rounds at fests, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, we have some fests on the horizon. We recently had done India, and we won a prize there for best film, which is really awesome. And it was this hand and my buddy Vincent, who played one of the hunters,
Uh huh.
actually went to India with his girlfriend Eveline, who also worked on the art department, and so they both were able to add this in their trip to actually go to that festival all the way out there. And
Wow.
it's really awesome that they did that. So that was the most recent festival and the prize we
Incredible.
got. But before that, we had a bunch of other great festivals, and we won quite some awesome prizes, I would say. So we
Man,
can't
so
complain, and
sick.
it's in all honesty above expectations of that the film had this of a positive ripple effect.
Hmm.
Um, just to address for people if they want to see the movie, like we are working very hard on a deal with a pretty known streaming platform for horror and stuff. So
Oh
um,
man,
we hope to get it on there, and we're in really positive rounds to get the deal done, I would say. So that's all I
awesome.
can say. But it will be available for people in the US to a lot of other countries around if people want to see the film. But it's just still making its festival rounds, and it will end up on a streaming platform that will be accessible for people. So
Beautiful.
we're
That's
working on
awesome.
that. So I really wish I had like very much clarity for people.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have been asking about that in the comments, so if you didn't mind me just taking the opportunity here, because I know people might ask here too, by just us talking about it in excitement,
Hmm.
that they have to see it. I really want this to be seen for everyone. So we'll just have to be a bit more patient with
Yeah,
that.
with a
Yeah.
little time, man. Yeah, and I tell you, from me personally, seeing the poster. I've been really big into lately not even watching trailers on things. I've the pitch of movies nowadays and the visuals and bringing things back to just selling something off of cover art, selling something off of poster art. I saw the poster for this. And I'm like, holy shit, what is this? And where do I find it? And luckily, we had gotten in contact and kind of went back and forth. And
Yeah,
I'm just like, dude,
yeah.
your other stuff is absolutely amazing. I have gone back and I've dug into all of
Oh,
these other shorts and things. And so
yeah.
I'm just like, oh man, I can't wait for this, and it's incredible. Absolutely awesome. You mentioned Robert Eggers and somebody who really is in captivating a time and a place. Uh, this was awesome, dude. I absolutely loved it.
Thanks.
So bravo,
Yeah.
congrats.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, yeah,
And I gotta say, I mean, Didier, I've had over an hour and a half of your time.
yeah.
I cannot be more appreciative of this, the conversation, the small details, the fun things, and the fruitful career that you have had and are continuing to do, sir. I really appreciate the time tonight. Thank you so
No, I,
much.
I appreciate our chat. I love doing these things, and your channel is awesome. You're rocking
Too
the
kind.
sunglasses. Keep doing it. And hopefully we'll able to chat again, on the next
Absolutely
project. I'm not gonna stop or doing awesome things, writing new things. So there will be more
amazing,
things to chat about in the future. So
beautiful,
very much looking
beautiful.
forward to that. And thanks for all your questions. I really
And
enjoyed the questions you asked, like you said, the details or the nostalgia-driven questions is
yeah,
something I really love. So yeah, thanks
very
for that,
fun.
man. A
No,
lot of fun
not.
to chat about. I can go forever about the
No.
VHS store. It's such a tragedy. Yeah, yeah.
Well, at one point, we're going to have to talk about, whatever this next project is that you have coming out. And for everybody watching, Witte Wieven will have this at some point on a streaming platform. And we'll be able to, gush over that. And I'll talk about on the beautiful horror community that's here, the awesome new folk horror that we have to add to many other amazing ones, dude. Thanks to you.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, have a great night, and
Yeah.
we'll talk more. We'll stay in touch. All
Absolutely. Take care. Have a good
right.
night. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Take care, man. See ya.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.